I noticed that I tend to use a lot of mid Pokemon. Not even mid stats, but just Pokemon that seem to perform very okay. I get a lot of joking comments from my friends about how I seem to commit my whole life to the Pokemon that has the most potential in the format. But I wonder if there actually is some value to these jokes. Because it is kind of true. I do tend to only use Pokemon that are weaker than what everybody else is using. I think maybe it's time to deviate from my brand and just use Pokemon that are bog standard. Now, that doesn't mean just picking the best team and spamming it. It doesn't work for me, I've tried. But it does mean looking at Pokemon that are popular rather than Pokemon that I think could work well with what I already know. In other words, it's time to actually learn how to play the game without relying on a surprise factor or matchup checks. In the Banana Cup, my friend Mark, also known as Repeat, was using a Hisuian Arcanine and Fluttermane based team, and these teams have been rising in popularity, so I decided to bite the bullet and just reach out to him. We started talking about the team and testing it, and it actually feels really good. So Mark, Tom, and I were testing this team for a few days, and we decided it felt mid. We all pivoted off it for a while and went our separate ways. After looking through the metagame, I see this cool team that involves Galarian, Zapdos, and Tinglu, and I think that it actually has potential. I know Diego, the Zamazenta guy himself, is on a team similar to this. The last time Diego and I worked together on a team was exactly 1 year ago for San Antonio Regionals, where we were both able to make day 2. I figured that he knows how to pick a good team, so I asked him how on earth to use Galarian, Zapdos, and Clear Amulet Tinglu. Thanks to the leaked EV spreads from the Victory Road tournament, I was able to construct the other pieces on my own. So I switched from this super standard looking balance team to this crazy mashup of pieces. Quite the switch up if you ask me. We'll start with the most unique piece on this team, Gyapdos. Gyapdos actually has pretty good stats, unlike the other pieces I've been known to use. So to take advantage of that, Diego advised me to use Brave Bird and Close Combat, 2 moves that allow Gyapdos to dish out some pretty serious damage. Of course, the mainstay of Gyapdos is Coaching, a move that increases both attack and defense of the partner Pokemon. Now, if you look at the team, you'll realize that almost every single Pokemon on this team is a physical attacker, so it allows almost every single Pokemon to get some kind of value out of Coaching. However, the last move isn't as straightforward. When first talking with Diego, he told me that Porygon 2 and Ursaluna was a really difficult matchup for us, because we couldn't reliably stop Trick Room, and we didn't have enough defense to get through the whole team. He told me that he was using Taunt on his Gyapdos over Dual Wing Beat, so that way he had some kind of tool into the matchup. I decided to follow suit, and rounded out Gyapdos' moveset with Taunt. The EV spreads are pretty straightforward. Diego told me that Gyapdos can survive the Moonblast from bulky Fluttermanes, which were standard at the time, with only 20 HP investment. He said that the popular versions of the team that were public had a Gyapdos that was not max speed, so he thought that by removing some bulk and by maxing out its speed, we could potentially have an easier time into the mirror. We dumped the rest into attack and make it adamant, since we feel like having higher damage output is huge. Most of these Gyapdos run Choice Scarf, and ours is no different, also going with the standard Terra type of Ghost. I asked the same friend from last time what he thinks Gyapdos' name is, and he calls it Saren. Next up, Tinglu, one of Gyapdos' favorite partners. Now, the synergy between Tinglu and Gyapdos is actually really good. First of all, abilities. Gyapdos has Defiant, which allows it to sit in front of Intimidate Pokemon, and Tinglu has Vestal of Ruin, which weakens special attacks, helping Gyapdos' lack of natural bulk. We decided to give Tinglu the Clear Amulet as well, which helps tons into Intimidators, as well as giving us an overwhelmingly positive Incineroar matchup. As for its moves, we decided to give it Earthquake and Throat Chop. Since Earthquake hits your own partner, you might not think that is very useful, but Gyapdos is a flying type, which allows us to safely click it with Gyapdos beside Tinglu. Throat Chop is just good dark damage, and for consistent damage when we don't want to hit our own partner. We decide to give it Terra Blast as its final attack, and Protect to help with staying power. Terra Blast may not seem all that crazy as a pick, especially because I haven't told you Tinglu's Terra type yet. So, Tinglu is Terra Poison. Sure, Poison is a good defensive type, but is it really that good offensively? Well, maybe not on its own, but combined with Tinglu's natural type, Poison Blast can cover for almost anything. Tinglu typically struggles into Ogerpon because it can redirect its moves, and Fairy types are also quite the hassle. But Terra Poison Blast instantly KOs most Ogerpons if Chien-Pao is on the field, or if Tinglu has a coaching boost. We round off Tinglu's moveset with Protect to allow it to sit in front of Fake Out and just for some extra staying power. These were the EV spreads I decided to use, mostly because Diego sent them and I just listened to whatever he said. This spread had enough attack investment to actually deal good damage, while still having enough bulk to survive key attacks from Landorus and Fluttermane. I can't nickname Tinglu because it's the shiny gift one, but let's just pretend its name is Tuxedo Cake because that's what my other one is called. Gouging Fire is next, and this Gouging Fire just has the normal Terra type and item for this format, being Booster Energy and Terra Fairy. We also decided just to stick with the standard moves, which are Heat Crash for damage, Breaking Swipe for spread damage and to lower your opponent's attack stats, and Howl to help set up our large selection of physical attackers. For our final move, we have Protect, which might not sound too crazy, but if you know anything about Gouging Fire, you know its signature move is called Burning Bulwark. And it's a Protect-like move that burns the attacker if it makes contact. You might just think we're throwing by not using Burning Bulwark, but there is actually a reason. Burning Bulwark does not defend Gouging Fire from status moves. Some status moves are Parting Shot, Spore, Thunderwave, and let me tell you, we don't want to be getting hit by any of those attacks. And even if we were to use Burning Bulwark and burn something, we have such a crazy selection of physical bulk on this team that it's probably more optimal just to not have the Gouging Fire fall asleep. Now, we want our Gouging Fire to be fast, but we also wanted to deal some damage. So we decided to make it jolly with lots of speed investment. We wanted to have a lot of bulk since it is one of our key support pieces, so now we give it a good amount of HP investment. We figured that we'll be setting up Howl so often that investing a lot of points into attack isn't as helpful as putting them into bulk, so we only give it 52 attack. And we put the remaining 12 into defense, and 4 into special defense. My friend thinks the name Goundar fits Gouging Fire, so that's what I name it. Next, my personal favorite Pokemon on the team, Dragonite. Dragonite has clutched so many games for me, and because of that, I love having him on here. I just copy the spreads from Victory Road and use the same moveset, which is Loaded Dice, Scale Shot, Extreme Speed, Iron Head, and Protect. I end up going with Inner Focus for its ability. That way, I am immune to both Fake Out and Intimidate. Scale Shot boosts Dragonite's speed and lowers its defense, and does insane amounts of damage. Iron Head allows us to actually hit Fluttermane, and Extreme Speed lets us KO low HP targets before they can attack. Protect is pretty self-explanatory. This EV spread focuses on attack, since we'll be boosting its speed with Scale Shot anyways. The speed investment allows Dragonite to outspeed pretty much every Incineroar, and sometimes even slower Pokemon in Tailwind after I get a Scale Shot up. Then the rest is dumped into bulk. My friend names it Pasha, and I end up hunting for a cool mark since I prefer regular Dragonite over Shiny. So this is Pasha the Joyful. Chien-Pao is next, and it's really standard. I wasn't kidding when I said I was going to use bog standard Pokemon. We literally just used the basic moveset of Ice Spinner for terrain and damage, Sucker Punch for dark coverage and priority, and Sacred Sword to hit Incineroar. Protect is pretty obvious here, since Pao has really low defenses. We just give it the Focus Sash, and I decided to use Terra Ghost to be immune to Fake Out. Since it's Focus Sash, I just make it a basic 252 spread, and we decided to use Adam and Chien-Pao. What did you expect? This Chien-Pao is the same one I used on another team, and I named it Jumper because of a funny video I saw with a ferret jumping through the snow. If I can find it, it'll be here. If not, then I'll put something else, I don't know. Finally, we have Sinistcha. That's a weird looking Sinistcha. This team typically does run Sinistcha, but I decided to use Amoonguss, one of the biggest changes on Diego's version of the team. My Amoonguss is just a basic spread that has an almost equal distribution of defense and special defense, with a good amount of HP. I give it Citrus Berry and Terra Water to be better into Torkoal and other Sun teams that I might otherwise struggle with. Its moveset is standard with Sludge Bomb for damage, Rage Powder for redirection, Spore to put targets to sleep, and Protect. I name it Dish Soap because I think it kind of... Hold on, I actually have one. I name it Dish Soap because I think it kind of looks like these Dawn bottles. It's like the little head part here and like the body. It's shiny, it's blue. So, I don't know, maybe it's close enough. After heading into the venue feeling maybe not as confident as I should be, I sat down to play my first match. It's been a while since I've played, and I have a regional coming up, so I'm really hoping to do well. Round 1 is against Darevon, and he's using a really odd team with Bastiodon. Now, I don't think Bastiodon is very good, and neither does he, but it's pretty funny. The rest of his team is a standard Flutter Hark team, and I suspect he probably won't bring Bastiodon, so I decided to approach this matchup like it's a standard Fluttermane Harkonine team. He leads Fluttermane and Hark into Gyapdos and Ting Lu. I feel like this lead is heavily in my favor, and there are so many things I could do here. However, I decided to just stick to the line and Brave Bird and click Earthquake. Darevon sends the Terra on Hark in order to survive the incoming Earthquake, but now he no longer has any good defensive options for my Chien-Pao in the back. Fluttermane sends the Icy Wind, lowering Gyapdos' speed, and to my surprise, Gyapdos is still faster than Hark, allowing me to take out Fluttermane in one single attack. Hark follows up with Flare Blitz into Gyapdos, taking it out. But trading Gyapdos for Flutter, along with forcing a Terra, is still a super positive trade for me. Earthquake follows up and chips the Hark a little bit, and now it's time to show off the power of Terra Poison Blast. Darevon sends an Ogerpon, and I suspect that he probably has Landorus in the back. If this is true, this game is essentially over. I have a super safe play of Ice Spinner into Hark and Terra Poison Blast into Ogerpon. Since he is locked into Flare Blitz with Choice Band, he cannot click Extreme Speed, and since Landorus is presumably in the back, he can't switch Hark to Lando either. This means that in order to keep that slot alive this turn, he has to click Follow Me. But if he clicks Follow Me, he can't break Chien-Pao's Focus Sash, and Terra Poison Blast and Ice Spinner will take out the Ogerpon. Then I can use Ting Lu and Dragonite to guarantee the win against Landorus in the endgame. As anticipated, he goes for Follow Me, and Ice Spinner chips the Ogerpon a little bit as Flare Blitz comes out, and thankfully doesn't burn my Chien-Pao. Terra Poison Blast is then able to take out Ogerpon. Lando is revealed as the last, and as we already know, Darevon can no longer win, as he gets swept by Dragonite and Chien-Pao, bringing us to Game 2. He leads Fluttermane and Ogerpon versus my Gyapdos and Ting Lu. Right now, I have a few options. I could attempt to click Coaching to get a defense boost, and Terra my Ting Lu, preventing any meaningful damage on that slot, and giving me either an Earthquake for a really good chip on both, or sending a Poison Blast to potentially take out Ogerpon. Or I can click Brave Bird and Earthquake, which would almost certainly allow me to take a KO. I figure that I can probably clear the rest of his team with Dragonite and Chien-Pao, so I decide to go for the KO on Flutter. He sends the Terra Water on Ogerpon, as I send the Terra Poison on Ting Lu. He goes for an Icy Wind, and I realize that he made a play that I didn't even consider. The Icy Wind drops my Gyapdos' speed, and Ivy Cudgel takes it out before it can attack. Thanks to the Terra on Ogerpon, Earthquake is neutral on both, and I land a super lucky critical hit on Ogerpon. I decide to send in Pao next, since I figure that even with the Sword of Ruin drop, I can still probably survive a double up with Ting Lu, and allow Earthquake to take both KOs. Protect comes out from Pao, as Ogerpon goes for a Spiky Shield. Flutter goes for an Icy Wind again, which does essentially no damage, and doesn't lower my speed thanks to Clear Amulet. And then Earthquake follows it up and takes out Fluttermane. He decides to send in Hark next, and I am in some pretty serious trouble. It's true that Ting Lu is not really threatened at all this turn, since I should survive a double up from both slots. However, the Chien-Pao slot is in trouble, since I would not survive a double up. I assume Hark will click Rock Slide, which covers for a Dragonite switch in and gives Darevon the possibility to flinch, and Ogerpon will probably go for an Ivy Cudgel. However, I'm not sure which slot he wants to target. He could either attack Ting Lu for good chip, or he could force me to lose a piece if he attacks Pao. I'm not really sure what to lock into, but I figured that if I can survive this turn without losing a piece, I'm in really good shape. The good news is that Darevon doesn't have Terra available, so Earthquake should take both slots from this range, assuming I don't get flinched. I decide to send the Sucker Punch into Ogerpon and the Earthquake, hoping that I either take the KO with Sucker or don't get flinched. Sucker Punch comes out, and it does get the KO, which is super lucky considering Ting Lu gets flinched by Rock Slide. Landorus comes out, and since Hark is Choice Band, Darevon isn't able to use Extreme Speed to take out Chien-Pao, so I have a safe Ice Spinner into Landorus and an Earthquake, which wins me the game on the spot, if he doesn't Protect or if I don't get flinched again. Protect comes out from Lando, as expected, and Rock Slide comes out and misses Chien-Pao, essentially winning me the game on the spot, and Ting Lu gets flinched again. Assuming that turn plays out the same way, but Rock Slide connects on the Pao, I almost certainly lose this game. However, with Pao still alive, Ice Spinner taking Lando, Earthquake threatening Hark, and a healthy Dragonite in the back, Darevon can no longer win, winning me the game and the set, bringing me to 1 win and 0 losses. Round 2, I pull Olivia, and if there is anything I know about playing against Olivia, it's that I normally lose. However, I'm feeling confident after my win against Darevon, so I'm ready to play some good Pokemon. I was sitting beside Diego, and I looked at him and shrugged, since I have absolutely no idea what Olivia was using, and he points at Gouging Fire and Ting Lu on the team sheet and nods at me with a smirk on his face. I guess we know what I'll be bringing in this matchup. Team preview loads up, and I see Gouging Fire can Gambit. I want to bring Gyaptos here, but Diego knows the team better than I do, so I guess I'll just listen to him. I got absolutely annihilated, and it wasn't even close. I didn't even think I played that bad. I just felt like King Gambit was so difficult for us to deal with. I talked to Diego about the matchup after, and the first thing he said was, "Why don't you just lead Gyaptos and Ting Lu?" Thank you, Diego. Very helpful. Game 3 is against Atticus, a newer player in the scene. However, time playing does not say anything about skill level, so I know that I will have to be prepared to fight for my life. And as I look at the matchup, I realized that maybe I would have a better chance fist-fighting a gorilla than winning against this team. This matchup is by far the matchup I struggle into the most. Blood Moon Ursaluna is a nightmare, Urshifu Dark ignores my defense boosts, and Fire Pawn absolutely shreds everything. I think my only chance is to use Ting Lu to weaken Ursaluna Blood Moon's attacks, and use Gouging Fire to lower the attack of everything else. The only good news about this matchup is that he can only have 2 Pokemon on the field at a time. However, the fact that any one of his Pokemon can instantly kill any one of mine makes this good news turn to bad news very fast. Game 1 opens with Ogerpon and Tornadus against Gouging Fire and Dragonite. Honestly, not the worst lead ever. Now, I want to clarify, this isn't good, but it's not that bad. This may look like a good position for me, since I can Breaking Swipe to lower Ogerpon's attack and Scale Shot to take out the Torn. But I don't really want to KO either piece, since then Ursaluna will come out and sweep my entire team. However, I can't win by taking no KOs, and Ogerpon and Torn can still deal meaningful damage with Ivy Cudgel crits and Bleakwind Storm. I decide to Howl and Scale Shot Ogerpon. Maybe +1 speed boost will allow me to be faster than Ursaluna and Tailwind, and a +1 attack might allow me to put Ursaluna in range of an attack from any other Pokemon. How am I going to deal with the Dark Urshifu in the back? Probably the forfeit button. However, Atticus doesn't go for Tailwind, and Ivy Cudgel comes into Dragonite, dealing a surprising amount of damage, which is then followed up by a Bleakwind Storm, bringing Dragonite quite low and getting a double speed drop. Scale Shot targets into Ogerpon, taking it out, but now I almost certainly lose. Thanks to those speed drops, Ursaluna and Urshifu are faster than both of my pieces in Tailwind, meaning that they can just take me out instantly. Atticus goes the Ursaluna route, and I send Extreme Speed into Torn for some chip, as Tailwind and Terra Normal Hyper Voice come out, killing both pieces. Ting Lu and Pow hit the field, and this is looking bleak. Get it? I figure that maybe I can Throat Chop the Ursaluna to stop it from spamming Hyper Voice, and then take it out with Sucker Punch and KO Torn with Ting Lu. So I protect Pow as Bleakwind Storm and Hyper Voice do insane damage to Ting Lu. Even with Vessel of Ruin, I still die to another Hyper Voice. Throat Chop does some good damage, and Atticus switches Ursaluna to Iron Hands? No Urshifu. This means I might actually have a chance. I Terra Ting Lu to get Terra Poison Blast in order to not take Rocky Helmet chip, as Sucker Punch fails and Bleakwind Storm comes out and connects on both. Terra Blast takes out Torn, and now I see a line. Iron Hands has Fake Out active, so the only play I should really ever make here is Double Protect, which also stalls out the last turn of Tailwind. If that's the case, then I force a Protect 50-50, which puts me in a position to possibly win if I call out the turn correctly. I predict that Atticus will not protect his Ursaluna, and I get it correct, using Sacred Sword to take out Ursaluna. However, Ting Lu doesn't have enough health to survive the Sword of Ruin boosted Wild Charge, and goes down before it can attack, and Pow doesn't have enough damage output to take out Iron Hands, so I lose the game. I genuinely have no idea how I'm supposed to win this game, but I might as well play it out. Game 2 opens with Gouging Fire and Ting Lu lead, up against Urshifu and Tornadus. The good news is that I have a lot of defensive options, and the bad news is that none of them are safe. Urshifu is threatening both pieces with tons of damage, but I can Terra Gouging Fire into Fairy to resist all of Urshifu's attacks. However, doing this means that I can't Terra Ting Lu, and a close combat will bring it to super low HP. I could Terra Ting Lu to poison to avoid this, but if I do that, not only will Gouging Fire be vulnerable to both Wicked Blow and close combat, but Ting Lu will no longer resist Wicked Blow, which will do a ton of damage. The turn starts, and I decide to Terra neither? Tailwind comes out, and Atticus goes for Wicked Blow into Ting Lu, exactly as I expected. I click Howl to boost Ting Lu's attack, and go for a Throat Chop on Torn. bringing it in range of another attack from either slot. Urshifu goes for Wicked Blow into Ting Lu again, as Tornadus goes for Bleak Wind Storm and misses Ting Lu, as Breaking Swipe takes out Torn and brings Urshifu low. I go for the non-Terra Blast, since I didn't want to use the 4 times resisted Throat Chop, and I didn't want to take out my own Gouging Fire. And the Terra Blast does essentially no damage. Ogerpon comes in next, and this position actually isn't too bad, since Atticus struggles to hit Gouging Fire for good damage. Atticus decided to Terra Fire his Ogerpon and go for Ivy Cudgel into Ting Lu to take it out, as Urshifu goes for Wicked Blow, and I survive. Breaking Swipe lowers the attack of both Pokemon and does meaningful damage to both. I bring in Dragonite and threaten the Extreme Speed onto Urshifu. I figure Atticus will probably protect to save Urshifu, but he doesn't, and Extreme Speed takes out Urshifu. Wait, it lives? Terra Fire, Ivy Cudgel, and Wicked Blow take out Dragonite. And now, I am in huge trouble. Tailwind expires, but now I have a choice to make. I could click an attack with Gouging Fire, but I will die to Spiky Shield Chip if I hit into Ogerpon. If I double attack the Urshifu, he can Sucker Punch my Gouging Fire, and click Ivy Cudgel to take out Gouging, and bring Pow to Sash. I can predict this by going for Sucker Punch into Ogerpon, but if I do that and he clicks Follow Me, I lose on the spot. In other words, I have to call out his play. I call that he will Sucker Punch Gouging Fire, so I protect it and go for Sacred Sword into Urshifu to take it out. Ivy Cudgel comes out into Pow, and thanks to Focus Sash, I survive and win the game, or so I think, until I see him send out Ursaluna. I forgot he had another Pokemon, and now I am in really big trouble. If I lose this, I'm probably out of the tournament. 1 win and 2 losses is disastrous for the tiebreaker, so even if I win the remainder of my games, I'll probably miss out on Top Cut. 9th place again. I think back to all of my past tournament runs. I've come back from situations that others would consider a lost cause. Pollen Puff into Calyrex, Timer Stalling Mark, Frigoraph locking up a ton of games, and Ursaluna absolutely cooking everyone. I have lost too many times, and I refuse to lose again. This time, I will make Top Cut, to show everyone that I'm not just some random who had 1 good result and thinks he knows what he's doing. I know my friends don't think of me that way, but this isn't about what they think. It's not about what you think either. I need to prove to myself that I can do it. I can finally reclaim a Top Cut placement. I feel my vision sharpen and my brain working at 200% capacity. I stop thinking ahead to Game 3. I stop worrying about how I'm going to win any other game. All that matters is this one, right here in front of me. I have 1 minute to find a way to win this impossible game. And somehow, I see it. Atticus will not protect his Ogerpon. This means that Breaking Swipe will take it out, and Shenpao will finish Ursaluna from there. This is the way to win. The turn begins, and Atticus goes for Follow Me, and Breaking Swipe gets the KO into Ogerpon, and Ice Spinner takes Ursaluna, winning me the game. Game 3 was a disaster. I think I used up all my brain power on that last turn because I got absolutely cooked. Atticus makes smart adjustments and plays well, and I don't get enough calls right to win, and I lose the set. Was that all for nothing? I played that endgame so well, and yet I'm still 1-2. I guess it's over. Round 4, I play Archetype, a player known for using super wacky teams. Luckily, the matchup was severely in my favor, and Ting Lu and Dragonite were able to clean up his entire team. For the final round of the day, I play Ryan. This is the kind of matchup I'd expect in Top Cut, not at the X2 tables. Ryan is on some Glamora and Booster Speed Roaring Moon team, and let's just say I don't like the matchup very much. And neither does he. This matchup is just a massive pain for the both of us. He leads Glamora Roaring Moon into Gyapdos and Ting Lu. Now it's time to play a game. It's called Bye Bye Gyapdos. I suspect he will click Meteor Beam into Gyapdos, but if he does that, then I probably trade KOs with Glamora and ship Roaring Moon, which feels positive to me. But I don't think Ryan's Glamora wanted to play Bye Bye Gyapdos. In fact, I don't think it wanted to play this match, since it misses its Meteor Beam into Gyapdos, as Gyapdos goes for a Brave Bird to cover for a Terra, and Earthquake takes out Glamora without giving it a chance to attack. With Glamora down and Gyapdos alive, Ryan has a really hard time winning the matchup, and once I get rid of the spikes, he no longer has a good way of dealing with Dragonite, Pow, Gyapdos, and Ting Lu, and I win the game. Game 2 opens the same way. It's time to play Bye Bye Gyapdos again. This time, Ryan makes it a point to Terra his Glamora, so it will survive the Earthquake, And Glamora actually wanted to play, and Gyarados goes bye-bye. I sent in Amoonguss to get rid of the spikes and potentially to put Moon to sleep, but I want to make sure that Glamora goes down, so I Terra my Tinglu to poison to set up for a Poison Blast. Glamora goes for Sludge Bomb on Amoonguss, and Tinglu follows up with Poison Blast to take out Glim. Ogerpon comes out in order to block Amoonguss from putting Roaring Moon to sleep, but I decided to protect Amoonguss, as Ryan goes for Knockoff and Ivy Cudgel into Tinglu, and Earthquake comes out and chips both slots. Ogerpon goes for a Spiky Shield, as Roaring Moon uses Acrobatics to take out Amoonguss, and Terra Blast goes into Ogerpon's Protect. This is not very good. Dragonite is forced out, and I'm in some pretty serious trouble. But if I win this, I might actually have a chance to top cut, so I decide to lock in again. And I see a way to win. I protect Tinglu as Roaring Moon goes for Tailwind again, and Ivy Cudgel goes into Tinglu's Protect. And Scale Shot connects with Ogerpon, bringing it in Extreme Speed range. I go for a Protect on both slots in order to scout for a potential Protect on Ryan's end, but he just double attacks. Ogerpon protects, but I targeted Roaring Moon with Extreme Speed, taking it out as Tinglu goes for Terra Blast into Ogerpon's Protect. Fluttermane is revealed as Ryan's last, and this is a Choice Specs Fluttermane, meaning that it can probably take out both of my pieces. Luckily, I have a speed boost from the Scale Shot from earlier, so if I can survive until the end of Tailwind and take out Ogerpon, I should be able to win with Iron Head. However, Ryan goes for a double Protect, and gets it, meaning that I can take extra chip and would die to a Moonblast. But Ryan doesn't go for Moonblast. He attempts to take the Tinglu with Shadow Ball, and I survive, doing about half to Flutter with Earthquake as Tailwind expires, allowing Dragonite to win the endgame with Iron Head, putting me in contention for top cut. We've been in this spot too many times, with me holding my breath to make top cut. I worked so hard, made so many great plays, and this is the least confident I feel that I'll make it in. I started 1-2, meaning that my resistance is in the trash. My opponents don't have crazy records, and I didn't start well and fumble like the other times. I fumbled and then pulled it back. And in theory, I'm playing against weaker opponents than I have at any other one of these locals. However, it didn't feel like I was playing people who weren't as good. In fact, this felt like one of the tournaments with the highest concentration of good players that I've ever seen. It really goes to show how small the gap actually is between the average person and the best. If I had made a few plays differently, gotten a few more calls right, the entire trajectory of my tournament would be different. But now it's time to see if I made it. And I did. I'm just as surprised as you are, but the job isn't done. Okay guys, I don't know if this is gonna look good, but we're gonna try it. Okay, I'm holding my phone like the weirdest way possible, but just like, it's okay, wait. Okay, it's probably fine. Okay, I don't believe it. I started 1-2, as I'm sure you guys know, and I went from that 1-2 and took it to a 3-2 thinking, okay, well, like, I'm probably not gonna make a video out of this day anyways, like, you know, I'll just play it out for 9th, just because it's funny. And then I actually made it in, somehow, with like, less than 50% resistance. So I'm in playing Fiona, like, I'm just shocked that I made it in. So we'll see how that one goes. I don't know, the matchup seems kind of scary. Fiona's a good player. She won the Banana Cup that I got 9th at last time, so maybe not the best opponent I could have pulled, but either way, I'll do my best, I guess. The game begins with gouging Tinglu against Urshifu and Rillaboom. She decides to switch out Rillaboom to save it from a Heat Crash or a Poison Blast, and brings in Landorus. She terras Urshifu to water, as I terra Tinglu to poison. Gouging Fire gets a Howl off, as Urshifu uses Searching Strikes onto Gouging, bringing it super low. And Terra Blast comes out into Urshifu, doing a good amount of damage. I figure that she will probably Earth Power the Tinglu, so I decide to protect it and send a Breaking Swipe, anticipating that Gouging Fire will go down. Protect comes out, followed by a Breaking Swipe, and then Earth Power goes into the Protect. But she attacks Tinglu with Surging Strikes, doing quite a bit of damage. She switches Urshifu out to cover for me switching in POW, and brings in Hark. And the Intimidate allows Landorus to survive the Heat Crash and take out Tinglu with Earth Power. I bring in POW, which threatens both pieces, but this position isn't great. She still has all 4 of her pieces, and I am losing ground fast. I have to make a play. Fiona switches Lando to Urshifu and protects Arc, as I go for Breaking Swipe and Sacred Sword into Hark's Protect. She switches Hark into Lando and sends Aqua Jet to break POW's Sash, but Breaking Swipe takes out both slots, giving me the Pokemon advantage. From here, I'm able to win with Gouging Fire and POW, bringing us to Game 2. Game 2 opens with Urshifu and Rilla from Fiona, and Gouging Fire and Dragonite from me. She terrors her Urshifu again, but this time she doesn't switch out Rillaboom, and goes for Fake Out into Gouging Fire, followed up with Surging Strikes. Dragonite connects Scale Shot and does about half of Urshifu's health. I predict Urshifu to protect, and Scale Shot the Rillaboom, but she sends an Aqua Jet instead, but Gouging Fire survives. And then it goes right down to Grassy Glide. Scale Shot brings Rilla to about half, and I bring in Gyarados. Urshifu protects, as Scale Shot goes into that slot, and Brave Bird takes out Rillaboom, evening the Pokemon count, as she brings in Hark. I feel confident that she has Landorus in the back, and if I can take those two pieces out, I think Tinglu will win the 1 vs 1 against Landorus. She goes for Aqua Jet into Dragonite, as Scale Shot finishes off Urshifu, and Brave Bird does half to Arcanine. Rock Slide finishes off Dragonite, but Gyarados survives. Lando and Tinglu both hit the field, and I decide to Terra Gyarados to make it immune to extreme speed, and I figure that I can attack Lando with Brave Bird and click Earthquake, guaranteeing the endgame I was looking for. Landorus protects as expected, and Brave Bird goes into its protect. Fiona uses Flare Blitz to take out Gyarados, and Earthquake finishes off Hark. This is exactly what I was planning for. However, Landorus lands a critical hit on Earth Power, messing up my plan and doing way too much damage for Tinglu to keep up with. Throat Chop does good damage, but with the crit, it isn't enough. I lose the damage trade, and lose the game. If I don't get critical hit there, I win this set and advance to top 4. But I played towards an endgame that didn't account for luck, and because of that, I lost. Game 3 was a wash. I was frustrated with my bad luck for the previous game, and Fiona was able to outmaneuver me, losing me the game, the set, and eliminating me from the tournament in top 8. It's easy to be really upset when you lose. I would have liked to make it further in this tournament, but it's also important to recognize achievements. Nothing in life is guaranteed, and I am super fortunate to even be in a position where a top 8 finish isn't a fantastic result to me. Regardless of how I felt when the tournament ended, I feel good now. I made one step towards my goal, and if I can be 1% better every single day, then maybe I'll actually have a chance at competing at the Invitational. Thank you guys for watching.